so happy to introduce to all of you. And of course, for some of you, you already know who these wonderful people are, Donna Eden and David Feinstein. So I will try to give a brief introduction because there are so much I could say about both of them, but Donna Eden is among the world's most sought after, authoritative, and truly joyful spokespersons for energy medicine. She's been able to clairvoyantly see the body's energies her whole life. And how many of you has that been true? Like, it started early in life, this stuff, right? And then others, it kind of comes later. I can tell you personally, I have spoken with thousands of energy healers in the past 10 or more years. And so many of them, more than, I've lost count a long time ago, in sharing with me their journey as a healer. Donna Eden's name has just come up over and over again as the person who got them started, the person that inspired them, the person who has made such a difference for them for years. So Donna's classic book, Energy Medicine, it's the textbook in hundreds of healing classes. And Donna and David, your camera's off. So if you want to come back so we can see you, that would be great. And working with her husband, David Feinstein, they've built the largest, most well-respected program for developing hands-on energy medicine practititioners. So as Donna, now David, David Feinstein, his PhD, he is a pioneer on his own in developing innovative therapeutic approaches, 9 national awards for his books, on consciousness and healing. He's a licensed clinical psychologist. He's served as an instructor in psychiatry at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. And I could go on, but we want to jump in. So to summarize, Donna Eden and David have been really guiding lights, and I would say an expansive and inspiring force in the world of energy healing for decades. And we are moved and inspired to recognize their many years of work and the enormous impact they've had and continue to have with the Pioneers in Energy Healing Award. So
thank you, Anne.
You're welcome.
And since this is online, we're sent it in advance, but it is absolutely gorgeous.
So beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Yes, we don't stint on the award. When I say honor someone, I mean honor them. All right, so let's jump in. So I'd love to just start with I think to share a bit about just your journey, which has been a long one, right? But everyone I know who's an energy healer has a journey, right? And they're often quite miraculous. And so I think it would be great to hear from each of you about yours. I'm always fascinated to hear about the process of people, first realizing and then owning and then declaring that you are an energy healer, right? Because they're all kind of separate things. So I would love to hear
It started in 1943 when Donna was born, according to family legend, smiling.
Well, for me, I had all sorts of ailments as a little girl. I had asthma. I was allergic to all sorts of foods. I got tuberculosis when I was 3 years old, and it just continued. And my mother was a fantastic natural cook. And so I never even had sugar till I was in the 7th grade. So it had nothing to do with the foods I was eating. Mm-hmm. It was something else. And so by the time when I was 16, I got multiple sclerosis. And
you had TB at 3, right?
Yes, TB at 3. But this multiple sclerosis was very confusing to me. I was a song leader, and the first time I knew something was wrong, my legs collapsed on the football field, and then as the years went on, it got worse and worse. And when I was 27, I had a heart attack. So I had a lot of things.
Because
And-
her organs were breaking down because of the MS.
Yeah. In
Right.
fact, I was told by 5 different specialists when I finally thought, I've got to find somebody to help me. And I'd always seen energy, but it didn't equate to being able to do something with it. It was what
Right.
I saw. I saw it and felt it and knew it. But it was when these 5 different specialists gave up on me, I decided I would heal myself.
Yeah, and
and
let's know in the chat, guys, if those of you who have a similar thing, like it took that, right? It took,
Yeah.
all these people basically thing, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to do it
Yeah,
myself.
that's it. That's it. Somebody's at the door, David. Oh, well. Okay. So, and I did. I every single day when my kids went off to school, I'd sit there and experiment on myself, how to like my thighs had no energy in them, so I couldn't walk with my thighs. So I put one hand on my knee and one hand up near the groin and just held them, and noticed that it only took 3 minutes for that energy to connect up. And I just kept going all over my body, everywhere. And things started getting better. I had never been able to eat a piece of bread in my life. And suddenly I could eat bread with no problem. I could eat fruits and vegetables, which I never could eat anything that grew out of the ground, because it was just like some kind of poison to my body. I couldn't
Oh.
metabolize it. Suddenly I could eat things, and then my asthma went away, and then the energies were flowing in my body, and I got stronger and healthier. And when my MS went away, I wanted to share it with the world. I wanted to tell everyone that there was something that they could do with whatever was going on with their body. They had the power to shift it and change it. And I really was fairly obnoxious there in the beginning, because I wanted to tell everybody that they could heal themselves. And it wasn't me that it was a healer. Everybody has the capacity to heal themselves and heal others. They have that if the spirit so moves them. And so, I mean, very, very quickly, I started teaching. And I was very exuberant about it, because I knew this could change the world. I thought every government on the planet would be a better government if people did energy healing on themselves before they made any strategic decision.
That's part of the future of energy healing I would like to see happen. Yes.
So, and I was so exuberant about it that I talked 3 different colleges into sponsoring me to start teaching at their colleges, and I had no degree, but and California had a law then that said that if you are the person who can teach something that no other teachers can teach, you can have a degree, and you can have a license to teach it. So that was great, and I did. I just started teaching in the colleges, and I have loved this so much, because it's not only changed the fact that I got well, it changes everything.
Mhm.
Things will always happen to us, but if you know what to do for it, if you know how to shift that energy and get your vitality back, or your aliveness back, or your health back, it changes everything. And for your children, so they don't have to be filled full of medicines, etc. So it's been a very good journey for me. And I got David very early on.
Right, when in that period between when she was really over most of her MS symptoms and before she started teaching was when we met. And
Okay.
that was 46 years ago. Yeah, 46 years.
46 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Seems like only 44, but and I had just moved to San Diego from Baltimore, where I was on the faculty of the medical school at Johns Hopkins. So I had one foot in a very traditional setting, very traditional background. And however, I was always interested in alternative healing. I was very good at, I came to California and worked in San Diego County Mental Health Services as a senior clinical psychologist. And when 7 years later, when I left, the staff wasn't so sorry to see me go for my work, but I was the only one that could really cure their headaches. So I was really good at just 30 seconds later, their headaches are gone. So that was that. So so she wasn't a total mystery to me. However, I didn't understand what she meant by energies. This was, I mean, energy is the capacity to do work. Energy involves heat. Energy involves, there's a lot of different ways to think about energy, that it carries information and that it has intelligence were two that never occurred to me. This was really new.
And can you imagine, I stayed with him anyway.
So you can imagine the the dinner table conversations that we had over this, because it was like Trump and Biden, it was
He was
energy and science and yeah, absolutely. So wonderful. So and I'm wondering, and then so you've been teaching for decades.
Yes,
right?
Since I started teaching in 1977.
Yeah, there you go.
And that was your first class, and
David was one of the students.
Yeah, and you told everyone that since you were new to teaching, that
it only cost $5 for the whole weekend, because I'd never taught before, and I wanted to make mistakes, and I wouldn't feel bad if they only paid $5.
And you said they could have their money back.
And they could have their money back.
And I was the only one that wanted his money back.
That's pretty funny. So, all right, beautiful. So I'm wondering if you think of, so it started there, right? It started with this $5 class, and now, right, you have your whole school, of energy healing and certified practitioners, and such a comprehensive methodology in teaching that you teach, right? So I think that there's probably a number of people here. It's all energy healers here who, have things that they want to teach, among other things, right? And so I'd love to, what are some of the most important, lessons or insights that you got from that journey of teaching, right? And what kept you going? Because, honestly, I get you love it. That's probably the biggest answer, right? But it takes something. It really takes something, right, to grow something that has reached millions of people. So talk a bit about that. How did it expand to what it is today?
First of all, in the beginning, I thought very soon everybody on the entire planet would be doing this. It never occurred to me that it was a lot of work or anything like that. I just thought, well, of course, and that this is why I was born to do this. There was nothing else I could have done. I couldn't have done anything else. This was it. And I have loved teaching it. I love teaching it so much. And I love energy. It really is our superpower, energy.
Yeah.
And it's all that we are. We're nothing else. We're these lattice works of force fields. And if you can really understand that if you influence it at the energy level, you influence everything. It affects everything. And if somebody has a disease or an illness, you can take it away. You can prevent it before it comes. And you can get your vitality back if you've lost it. If you've gone into a slump and you have no energy, believe me, I just saw down there on the bottom of the screen somebody saying they did the daily energy routine every day. We have this, we have a daily energy routine that if you just do that, conglomeration, what is it called, David? A set, not conglomeration, set of techniques. It really unscrambles your force fields, makes everything go in the right direction. There's a power there that really can push some of the stresses out of your body. Everything just sort of straightens up and you're in better shape in about 6 minutes. And so when people have done it day in and day out, they find that they get stronger, healthier, they're more resilient, their emotions, their thoughts, everything works better. Your brain works better. And your relationships work better. So everything is really good, but that's just a piece of it. But
so to go back to your question, the first thing I had to teach Donna was enthusiasm.
Well, you're a very good teacher.
But despite Donna's vision or belief that everybody would be doing it, that kind of optimism, we started with absolutely no ambition.
yeah.
We didn't expect to build anything. We didn't think about followers. All we knew, what converted me really was just watching that people were coming from literally all over the world, and they were getting help with very few sessions with serious conditions. So as you know, coming out of the medical school at Johns Hopkins, I was paying attention to that. That was what each of these wide range of illnesses had in common was Donna. That was what was happening. So I really, I mean, when we met, I was the one that was an established professional. I expected her to support me in my personal mythology work. That was my kind of trademark, was working with people's, the guiding myths that shape everyone's life. And as it turned out, I've really put my career behind supporting her work. So it's clear to me it's her work. And I haven't gone through our certification program because I didn't want to be comparing myself to her. But what's happened is that with no ambition to build an organization, to build a following, anything like that, people, when she started teaching, people would start to come, and they'd start coming back again and again. And even after she raised her prices to more than $5, they still started coming back. And then they wanted more. So they would go, so they take several weekend classes. That was the most we would teach. And then we decided, well, we better do something more intense. So we started a 5-day class. And then as we started doing the 5-day classes, people were coming to those repeatedly. And
going well.
Yeah. So
I was just going to say, and with each class that we'd add, there was more things, because you never get to the end of energy. There's always something more you can teach.
And
so it was.
But just gonna say, and you always I think you only get to all of that stuff by teaching, right? Like if you're not teaching it, you won't discover all of it if you're trying to just do it yourself, right?
That's right. That's right.
It's another reason for all of you out here who are being called to teaching. Start teaching.
Yes.
You can charge more than $5, but start.
And the possibilities are endless because the body is so complex. So you have all these organs, all these systems, the respiratory system, et cetera, and each one is fueled by energy. Each one has, and some of them have very different kinds of energy. So the 5-day, we finally, as people were coming to it multiple times, we decided to do an advanced 5-day. So that was, so in terms of the steps, we went from just Donna teaching in colleges and evening presentations to kind of developing a curriculum for a weekend course, then a 5-day course, and an advanced 5-day course. And people were still not happy. So they were now saying, we want something to show for it. We want a certificate of some kind. So we kind of resisted that because that's a complex thing to do. And
it is.
A certification program. John Thie, the founder of Touch for Health, was one of Donna's mentors, and she was originally a Touch for Health instructor before she really got into her own work. And when Donna nominated John for a Lifetime Achievement Award at the ACEP conference, and when he accepted it, we went up to his hotel room and met with he and his wife. And we asked, well, you've had this long, really distinguished career. Is there anything you would have done differently? He said, yes, I never would have started a certification program. So within a year,
Oh, yeah.
He said, okay, I guess that's what we should be doing.
You know, I just want to say
Hmm?
two things. One is that, you know, I guess that's naivete, but I just thought it would travel by word of mouth. You didn't have to do anything. It would just go around the world, of course, because its time had come and everybody needed this. That's what I thought. And then I can't remember what the other
well,
one was.
people really wanted to have some kind of certificate that they could really show that they had mastered these skills. And so so we decided, okay, we'll do a certification program, and we announced it like a year in advance that we're going to do it, so we'd have time to plan it. And we figured that maybe there would be 20 to 40 people, because it's, you know, it simply costs more when you're gonna track people's progress and test them on their progress, all of that. And so and anyway, we didn't get 20 to 40 people, we got 220 people. And we suddenly had to hire a faculty, and we had to train the faculty, and we had to come up with, you know, we decided, okay, some of these people have taken the 5-day advanced class many times, so there needs to be 2 levels of it. So all of this was, so we got the certification program. We actually pulled it off that first year. We had 2 levels and had all the handout, these thick books for each course, and that all became an entity in itself. So for the 2 of us who had no ambition, we suddenly have this organization that is either lifting us up or on our shoulders, depending on how you look at it. But it was nothing we anticipated. It was nothing neither of us is a business person. And
Right.
so it really, the bureaucracy of it really started to get us, because then suddenly you're having to look at state laws and what are you allowed to teach, and where do you have to call yourself a vocational institute, and all of those things. So those are, so as the more successful you get, the more headaches you have, but also the more gratifying it is, and the more people you touch.
It's been extraordinarily gratifying.
Yeah.
It has been so amazing. I mean, really all over the world. And I mean, we've seen amazing miracles. Like Art up there was talking about the miracle of, what was it? The miracle of your miracle self. Well, I've seen so many miracle selves now. I mean, it's been amazing, and the healings we've seen happen, and now it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful.
Yeah. So as things have unfolded now, there are 1,600 people that have gone through our 2-year certification program, and they're working all over the world. And Donna's first book is in 21 languages. So it's really, and we're awed by that. And there's so much help that people are receiving that we have nothing to do with it. It's somebody we taught 10 years ago is doing this work out there. So it kind of multiplies, and it's just remarkable. And then I'll let you ask a lot more questions, but just once we kind of give the whole thing, COVID we thought was going to really be disastrous for us, because this is hands-on healing that we're teaching. And the week that the COVID restrictions went into place, we had to cancel 53 classes, 51 or 53 classes all around the world, not necessarily that we were teaching, but that were being taught in Donna's name. So that was a really, there's a sound.
No,
that,
sorry. not this.
It's not us?
Uh-uh. It's
Okay.
our refrigerator.
Is it? Oh, it's our refrigerator. Okay.
Okay, we can't hear it. At least I can't.
So we really thought this is the end. This is going to be really hard on our organization, because that's what organization is. It's a teaching organization. Once people get certified, we don't get a percentage of their
Right.
payment. It's just, we just teach. So this forced us to do more online work, and we had to figure out what can you do that's online and what really needs hands-on. And so we've been struggling with that, but what we've found is you can do a lot more hands-on than we realized. And a lot of people don't need the hands-on for the introductory work. So our game plan now is getting a lot of attention to our most elementary classes, where it's totally self-help. People don't learn energy testing. They're just learning how to help themselves.
Yeah.
Pain, for autoimmune illnesses, for getting their energy up, for sports performance, for all those things. And everybody can relate to those areas. So we put a lot of our resources into advertising that pulls people into those courses. And then people want more. They want more and more. That's how they wind up getting eventually into the certification program. And so that's kind of the way that we've done things. And our, you know, we did a course with Mind Valley, and Mind Valley is very good at these kinds of courses. They were kind of our introduction to a really successful online course. And in one course, had more people come into a advanced program. It was, I think it was a 6-week course. We taught basically what we taught in the 5-day. More people took that course than who had attended 22 years of globetrotting, more than 1,000 presentations. And there it was. So online is become part of the landscape of how we teach.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so we're ready for your questions, Anne.
No, it's really, and yeah, that's one of the things that happened with COVID, is that we just learned that, wow, there's some other ways we can do this, right? And as much as in-person stuff is still great to do whenever we can, there really is so much that we can do online.
Yes.
And really reach more people. So it's been quite discovery for a lot of people who do both the hands-on and also who do, you know, more distance healing type work. So I'd love to you know, part of this, how this whole thing came about, this conference and other things, is this recognition that there's a boom, there's a huge wave of growth happening in the world of energy healing, right? And I'm sure you guys can see it, and that's one example of how you guys are seeing it. And that we really need to be thinking ahead and not just riding the wave, right? It's fun. It's great that it's great that the wave is happening. It's a bit of a woohoo, look at all this stuff I could study, and look at the, you know, but if we're not thinking ahead, we don't really know where it could go. It could just be a whoo, and right. But we want it to be, you know, what we've been talking about here at the conference is the Renaissance, right? Where it really does just what that vision you had, you know, so down, like it's everywhere, right? And it's in all the hospitals and everywhere. And it's happening, but it's also not happening nearly as fast as we thought it would. You guys have been a big part of generating this wave, right? And now, you know, some others need to pick up the torch a bit. I know you guys aren't done, but you know, like the next generation's coming along. And what do you see? I'm sure you've thought about what's coming and what the future can hold in those realms of, you know, we here at the conference, we were talking about these 4 pillars of energy healing sustainability, which for anyone who, you know, hasn't heard those yet, I'll just recap them very briefly, right? So there's the actual education part, which is what you guys do, right? The passing on of the wisdom the continuing to expand what's possible, bring new ancient healing modalities to life. And so that's pillar one, right? And certifying people and educating. And then the second pillar is the legal and regulatory side. Like you were saying, like you have to, well, what kind of school do we have to do? What do we have to pay? And that's the part most healers would really rather not think about, tend to have their head in the sand, but we can't, which is why we have some of our speakers here that are experts in that. And then there's the research side, right? The actually presenting it. Those who are here this morning saw Caitlin Connor's, incredible recap of the 15,000 studies that are out there. And then there's the business of healing, which is the part that I am most passionate about, and really healing the business side of it, right? Healing the inner wounds that people have that keep them from putting themselves out there. And just really, so those, and you could speak to any of those, right? You could probably say a lot about any of them, but I wanted to give that framework because it's helpful to come from. So as you are sort of looking forward and what you see as possible, share about that, share just not like what your vision is and also what you think we need to be doing, right? Because you guys can't do it all. Other people have to step up too, right? So yeah, please, any of that's speaking to you.
Which one of us?
I'm going to invite you to tell a story.
Oh, what is
because in terms of getting energy medicine into institutions.
Yes, yes, you have some experience with that.
5 doctors at Palomar Hospital.
This is
I would love it if you would share.
Okay, what you're going to say first, and then I'll bring you to it.
No, I was just going to say that when I think of the future, I really believe that that energy medicine will walk hand in hand with Western medicine more. I just see that as happening. I see it in the hospitals. I see nurses learning. Doctors. We have doctors in our classes, which I'm always very moved by. That's something about their bigness that they can open to something more. And so I know, and so much of their medicine is including energy in different things now too. So I just think that's a part of it. But what David just wanted me to tell about was how things change. Many years ago, I was taken to court for practicing medicine without a license. And I was taken to court by 5 doctors out of a hospital that was really close to where I was.
They had a group practice that was near the hospital that they had rights at.
And but what happened was on the day of the court, when we were in there, were you going to try to tell my story? Okay.
Just that you were working that area, and a number of your clients were in their practice, and that's how they you got their attention.
That's right. And so they didn't want some quack doing this. But what happened is that every one of those patients of theirs that came forth to tell about how they were improved by this work, and the judge threw it out of the court. But about 5 or 6 years after that, maybe it was 10, how long?
Probably 5 or 6.
5 or 6 years after that, those same doctors invited me to come into the hospital to start teaching, because they began to see, I mean, anyone who's had a very traditional education in Western medicine, you've got to somehow get to that place where you can open to something beyond that. And they did. And so but I see that wherever I go, I see doctors and nurses opening. And I really believe that's just a part of the future.
I do too. And I have a healing client who's a trauma surgeon. It was like right, talk about like the engineers of the doctor world. Right? And she loves energy healing, and she's like, I don't know why these other doctors, but that would be interesting to talk about a bit more, because I think sometimes not only do more traditionally Western medicine trained doctors and nurses, they have what they're training, and so sometimes this is just too woo-woo, it's too whatever for them, right? But I think the other side can happen too, where people who are energy healers, who are into this, can start to be, I think sometimes too harsh or too like it becomes too much of a duality, right? Where we're like, oh, nothing to do with Western medicine, and it's like that's not helping either, right? So I think we have to. It's more about we have to bridge, like you did in that case. And yeah, I'd love to just hear both of your thoughts on that, of how do we do that bridging, right, to Western medicine.
Well, we were in a small town when we had our practice going, and because the doctors in that town, first of all, I think they had to see that we shared patients. Everybody
Right.
shared the same patients.
Right.
And so they had to see that things were going on. And so in time, patients were sent to me as a last ditch effort because there was nothing more the doctor could do. And so, and that's how that grew in that town.
Yeah, it was, we had a head start because it was a very medically progressive town. And as Donna always said, it was half the town were healers and the other half were getting healed. And, but with that many healers in town, you had the doctors had to deal with the fact that a lot of people were getting treated by someone else in the alternative realm as well as themselves. So they had to really learn about that. Right. And that made them more open. And then they would, send last resort people to Donna. And if Donna helped them, they would pay attention to that. And also they would kind of like one incident that I think really demonstrates it is an anesthesiologist would bring Donna into the operating room when there were really tough calls to make, when somebody was very delicate in terms of how the anesthesia, if it's too much, it's going to really harm them. If it's not enough, they're going to be in pain. How do you really figure this out? And Donna could just see energetically what was going on and just guide them moment to moment. So in that way, by the time that we went on the road in 1999 for a 5-city road trip, which we are still on, the medical community, or not the whole medical community, but enough people in the medical community were familiar with Donna's work, and she by then trained some other local practitioners. So it had grown. Now that's one doing it in one community, and everybody out there lives in a community. So you begin to build bridges with one doctor, with one nurse in the hospital. You build a bridge and get invited into places where the medical profession isn't quite as sure what to do. And if the person trusts you enough, they will invite you to assist, and that will really, start to get things going. So you have some great models there. Therapeutic touch, healing touch, Reiki, they're all in some hospitals. There are hospitals where that is standard treatment. You are invited to have a Reiki session before along with everything else. So that's one route. The other route I think you're really interested in is research. And there's no question that research speaks to the medical establishment. And it's very hard to do good research on alternative health practices because usually they're done in conjunction with conventional practices. So how do you know which one really made the difference? And because of human rights, they're being kind of aware of the needs of the patient. You can't just say, well, this group is not going to get conventional treatment because that's not considered ethical. So right. you have some real, and we have not done much in research. We're partially because Donna's attitude has really been, hey, it works. Anybody can see it works. We can do research for it. But I think even Donna is starting to kind of support us to put some resources towards research. So we're just getting started there. And we'll see what happens one of the consequences for me of getting into Donna's work is that even though I thought I was leaving psychology when we went on the road and I had to close my practice, I started to see that energy is being applied to psychological issues. So I learned energy psychology, I learned EFT, I learned tapping, and when I first got into it in 2001, there was no research. There wasn't a single published clinical trial in a peer-reviewed journal showing that it works. Now there's more than 150. So I can, so I see what can happen over 22 years is that it really is possible very quickly in relative time to do this. But we also know that the number 22 comes up again, that research has shown that even legitimate clinical innovations take 22 years from the time that they're first announced till they're part of standard practice. So patience is part of it, but I think that in addition to research, another piece that's important is to learn the language that bridges the two worlds, so that you're not just speaking about chakras and meridians and auras, you're also talking about cardiovascular systems and cellular regeneration, so that you're really able to speak in the language of the profession that you're wanting to influence.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very, and it's not that like every healer needs to go do that. Like, it's not that every healer to be effective and follow their thing needs to go do anatomy and physiology or whatever. But for those who want to be, this is kind of about what are you being called to do, each and every person here, right? In terms of creating the future. And some people are called to the research side. Other people are like, I'm called to the business side. I just love, turning broke healers into thriving healers. That's the best thing in the world to me.
That's great.
I have no interest in being involved in the legal and regulatory side, but I know that's really important, and I want to support the people who are willing to do that, right? So that's kind of being aware of the 4 pillars, so we can see what we can do to support each other. And I actually wanted to ask you a bit, David, about the energy psychology sort of side, which is I think of it as a subset of energy healing, of course, but and people with a psychology background think of it as a woo-woo subset of psychology, I'm sure, but probably because that's my background. My BA was in psychology, and I didn't continue with that because I actually couldn't have told you why at the time. I have more clarity about it now, but it didn't get into this stuff. This is the part that really interests me, right? So when I studied psychology, I actually, my BA's, I started at Harvard in 1985. So if you can imagine, more the history of psychology, Harvard Psych Department, 1985, it's like cognitive behavioral was king, right? You could like draw the direct line to behaviorism. In fact, kind of a little side note, B.F. Skinner was still alive, and he was a professor emeritus. I actually got to hear B.F. Skinner speak, which was pretty wild. But he was so, like, I used to joke, I had my little joke that the Harvard Psych Department had physics envy. A little psych joke. Like, they were just like, we are high science, we are. And it's like, kind of, not really. But there was so much emphasis on that. It just didn't have any soul. Like, that's what I would say now, right? And but it was the closest thing I could get to what fascinates me at that point and there, right? But over time, I started to really see what was more possible in the field of psychology. And I actually read a book by this Russian philosopher named P.D. Uspensky. I don't read philosophy, but I happened to pick this up. And he made a comment about psychology back in the 30s, but for me, it captured what I felt about it in the 80s. He said, the problem with psychology is that it's entirely concerned with what is and not at all with what's possible. And I was like, oh, that's it. That's what's missing for me. Right? So I don't know if that resonates for you, but if it does, what that thing about, like, to me, the energy psychology, as opposed to more traditional psychology, it's so much more about what's really possible, right? For us as human beings. So I'd love to hear either one of you speak to that, like the expansion of what's possible, not just trying to understand better what is.
I think that it's really a totally exciting. It's been, because I was practicing in more conventional ways for 30 years. Mm-hmm. So when I started to be able to do this, let me just get my chat screen down. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, there, I see you again.
I can see you.
When I first heard of the tapping therapies, I was running a supervision group. Our town was Ashland, Oregon, and I had about 12 therapists who were in that group, and I was supervising them. Many of them were needing their supervised hours for their license. And a young woman in the group came in. She had just discovered this tapping therapy, and she's explaining it to the group, and I am rolling my eyes. I am going, oh my God, how vulnerable can you be? This is some kind of self-suggestion and self-hypnosis at the best, if it works at all. And I just dissed it, and I'm embarrassed, that I was so dismissive. But people kept asking me about it, and because then we went on the road right after that, and about 15% of the people that come to Donna's classes are therapists. So they were asking me about energy psychology, and I was thinking, well, it's interesting that all these people are asking about it. So I just happened to be in a city where there was a group of psychologists that met once a month, and they invited me to come because that evening, one of the therapists who had learned tapping, learned thought field therapy, TFT, was going to demonstrate it that evening on one of the patients of another psychologist who was having trouble with a woman. And she had a fear of enclosed spaces, claustrophobia. And it was pretty intense. It had resisted previous treatments, and he was going to demonstrate this new therapy on it. And I watched it with a lot of skepticism, and but he began. I was comfortable with the way he started. He asked her about her history, and that was fine. And he asked her to imagine being in an elevator and give it a SUD rating, subjective units of distress. That was fine for me because I already did systematic desensitization, which used the same technique. And so I was fine. But then he starts these strange invocations of tapping and saying, my fear of elevators, my fear of elevators, my fear of elevators. Even though I'm afraid of elevators, I deeply love and accept myself. And I'm going, hey, that's the wrong direction. You're putting it in. You're supposed to be taking it out. But it didn't. She then says it's a 7. I'm saying, okay, well, these things vary a little bit. Maybe she's just getting more comfortable. So then she does another round, and it's down to a 5. And I'm thinking, I bet she's having an allegiance effect where she's just kind of feeling close to this therapist and doesn't want to embarrass him in front of his colleagues. And then another round of tapping, and she's back up to a 7. And I'm thinking, okay, these things vary a lot. It just kind of depends. And then she gets really more distressed when she thinks about an elevator, and he asks her what she's thinking. She's not thinking about elevators anymore. She's thinking about an incident that happened when she was 8. And when she was 8, she and her brother and some of their friends were playing, and there was a big appliance box, and they one person would get in it and the others would push it, and just kind of great fun. And then when it was her turn, they pushed the open end against a wall, and they all left, and they just kind of were making fun of her as they left, and she was trapped in there and she couldn't get out, and she was screaming, and her weight was at the bottom, so she couldn't free herself, move. And that was something she hadn't remembered for years. And so the therapist then starts tapping on that, and I'm thinking, wow, this is really interesting. And so she gets that all the way down to 0. And then she goes back to elevators and gets that down to 0. And psychologists love to test things. So we're just at somebody's house. It's just a small group of the local psychologists, and there's a closet there. So she goes into the closet. The therapist very sensitively says, if you get afraid at all, just knock, or just open the door and walk out. And so she goes in there, and we're waiting. And there's, imagine a dozen psychologists around this closet door, waiting and waiting forever, 5 minutes. And then finally the therapist knocks and said, "Are you okay?" And she opens the door, and she's exuberant. She's never had an experience like this where there's no problem at all. And I'm there just watching all this really skeptically. And then finally, I got it. This is a psychology experiment where they're showing how gullible therapists can be. But that wasn't it. It actually turned out that I wound up becoming a spokesperson for this crazy approach. And it was really a professional leap to be speaking in favor of it in 2001, when it was a matter of no research at all. But now the research is so strong, and it's strong that it's not only works, but that it's faster than most other therapies, and that it's more durable. The effects last. So this has been, from thinking I was leaving my career to support my wife, to really having a method that was more powerful than anything I had up till now. It's been a great blessing, and it's interesting to watch the resistance of the field to this. There's
Raising my hand.
No.
I just want to say,
Donna.
I just want to say that I think that it's very important for people to grasp that you often can't talk your way out. Usually can't talk your way out of some kind of situation you're in. It doesn't matter how much it's looked at, and psychologically, or psychiatrists, or anybody looking at it and dealing with it. You've got to move it energetically. You really do. You have to move it energetically. And all of the things that you go through are stored in your body energetically. And you want the tools to just move them out.
Yeah, as Bessel van der Kolk says, the body keeps the score.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's so many ways to move energy, right? And I think that's, that to me is a part of that's one of the things that I think it excites me about the future and the expansion on that pillar 1, like all the different ways, right? All the different types, is that there are so many ways. And because we're human, we have, I think one of the, hallmarks of human beings is we like to feel like we found out the truth, right? Like we're kind of addicted to that, right? And sometimes that causes problems because we're like, I have the only truth, and that, but even when it's not that extreme, I think sometimes we do kind of get caught up of like this is how you do it. Like, and this is, we start thinking it's the only way to do it. And the reality is there's so many ways to do it, right? So very, very many ways. And probably new ways. There's probably people here on this call who like came up with their own new way, right? And it works, and they don't realize that like they could teach. That could be for anybody to do that. And yeah, just that expansion, right? Of what else is possible? How else can we move energy? How else can we, reach across those divides? So that's a lot of what really excites me.
And I think energy psychology is a derivative of energy medicine in the same way that psychiatry is a derivative of general medicine.
Mhm.
So organizationally, I see myself under the same umbrella as Donna, whereas when we started, we couldn't have been under much different umbrellas, traditional psychotherapy and this woo-woo stuff.
Absolutely. One of my missions is healing the business of healing. Part of that, a separate mission, is reclaiming the term woo-woo. I want us to just own the term woo-woo. It's not
Yeah,
yes,
that's right.
it's
Yes.
so that's
Yes.
so woo-woo. Yes, it is.
Yes, it's like now they're finding all these words that were like weird.
Mhm.
Turns out to be a phenomenal word. It was the highest thing you could say about somebody about 500 years ago. That
Oh,
they
that's
were
so
weird. It
interesting.
meant that they stepped out of the box and knew something beyond, and it just turned, because I don't know why it turned, but all those words turned. But woo woo, we're going for that now. That's right.
Woo-woo. We're gonna own it. We're gonna own
Yeah.
it. I always like to say, someone says that's a woo-woo. I'm like, you know what else is woo-woo? Quantum physics.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it
Yeah.
is. That's more woo
Yeah.
than quantum physics. Yes,
Yes.
claim your woo, as people on the side, own the woo, embrace the woo. All right. Well, Donna, David, it's been so great to finally meet you and have you here. And I really want you to feel the love and just know, the inspiration that you have been to so many people all over the world. We met just a small representation of all the people that you have touched over the years. And yes, I hope you enjoy the award for many years. And just thank you so much for everything you've done and for being here today.
Thank you so much. This was really nice. You're great. and Art, I enjoyed you very much. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, if people want to learn more, EdenMethod.com, EdenMethod.com.
Yeah, at the very least, I think a whole bunch of people are like, I want to do that daily energy thing that everybody was talking about in the chat. So, so let's show Donna and David some love. And thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Heart. Thank you for the heart. Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. How fabulous was that?